Welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. It is the Storm versus the Raiders, week 1 of the finals review show. Obviously, it is up on the screen. The Storm 20, the Raiders 28. Possession 49-51, nice and close. Completion rate for a second straight game. The team with the lowest completion rate has lost this game, 70-80. Errors 14-9, and obviously Melbourne outrunning them by about 100 meters. We'll switch across to the scorers. It was for Melbourne Storm, Xavier Coates scoring in the 17th, the 21st, and the 44th minute. Big Nelson going over in the 56th, and obviously Cameron Munster kicking 2 from 4. For the Raiders, it was Matthew Tomoko in the 7th, Jamal Fogarty in the 31st, Elliot Whitehead in the 34th, Hudson Young in the 65th, Rapana in the 73rd, and Jamal Fogarty going 4 from 5 from the boot. Now, Baxter, you changed your tip here last week on the show. On your original image, you had the Raiders winning this game. You then flipped and went for Storm. We watched this game together. You then flipped your tip and you actually picked the Raiders in your footy tipping. So talk to me. Obviously, cracking game. We watched it together, so we've had a bit of time to obviously talk about this game. But what were your thoughts on this game? What's next for Melbourne? They obviously do lose the cheese. I don't know how much of a loss, if I'm being honest, that will be to them, but they lose the cheese. They lose Kafusi, boys. How much of a loss could this really blow up the Melbourne Storm next season, and how big of a win for the Raiders is this?
Yeah, as you said, I changed my tips a few times. Obviously, reading into a lot of it, Raiders going 4-0 down at Amy Park. I sided with the Raiders then. I sort of snapped myself out of it and said, come on, this is Storm at home. They should get it done. Then I went, nah, let's tip all the away teams here. And, Raiders came home with it. Look, Xavier Coates scores a hat-trick. You think it's all over and done with. But, again, you look back at the stats. Raiders completed 10% more. They less errors for the Raiders. So, it's unlike Melbourne to see those stats up there and put out the performance they do. They did big loss. I think it is a big loss for losing cheese because you lose the Bromwich brothers. They lose not Nelson. They lose Kafusi, and then they lose Hectic Cheese. That's like almost a forward pack really for the Melbourne Storm. So they're going to have to recruit heavily in the off season, if not bring some juniors in, because in a plus side they get Christian Welsh back, who's been missing all season. So that's sort of good in a way, but sort of an injury cloud hangs over the top of him. So yeah, I think they're going to have to go a little bit of soul searching for the Melbourne Storm, because this is last year for Bellamy next year as the head coach of the Melbourne Storm. So good on Ricky to get the win, and everybody's writing them off. So it doesn't matter if they lose this week, lose next week, or whenever. Just to be in the final 8 is impressive.
Well, talk to me. Obviously, you did just bring up the big coach Bellamy. In his press conference, he did say, I'm getting a bit too old for this. So reading between the lines, if you had to be a betting man right now, I know there's been rumors coming out, but we're not saying he's going past the end of the next season. We're saying he's done and dusted and someone else is going to come in.
Yeah, look, it was always that plan. I think it was reported that he signed a sort of a coach's role, not a coaching role, but it's sort of a suit role. So he goes sort of behind a desk and puts his feet up after 20 plus years of being the head coach of the Melbourne Storm. So good on him.
Well, obviously, it's the first time in a very long time we haven't seen Melbourne in the prelims, so it has been a while. But let's talk about the Raiders. Let's talk about Ricky Stewart. This is a side that was on the ropes. They were given no chance up until the last round. Their destiny of making the finals was out of their hands. They've turned it around. They've played some entertaining football. Now, I'm not saying this is the hardest team you're going to face in the finals, but being a Cowboys fan, you know the Raiders take on Parramatta at CommBank Stadium. Would you rather play Parramatta or would you rather play the Raiders, who are unpredictable?
I'd rather play Parramatta because I know they're chokers, and it would be good to see them choke 1 week out of before a grand final. So everything says it should be a Parramatta win. If you look really into the stats, the last time, as I said, I've touched on before, last time Top Gun was the highest grossing film. Parramatta won. Top Gun this year is the highest grossing film. I should say Parramatta should win. It's not going to happen. They're just here to make numbers up and go the Raiders.
Yeah, 100%. I think if there's maybe 2 or 3 teams that I would prefer to take this premiership, I don't think Para in there. Raiders are definitely one of the ones. I've always had a soft spot for Ricky when he's not playing against the Roosters. Let's talk about Melbourne quickly before we shut this one off. You spoke about the forward pack and how they're losing all these players. They're losing Brendan Smith, who can play obviously hooker and in that lock position. Talk to me about Nofaluma. He waited 181 games to play his first final games. He goes to Melbourne. He's probably thinking, you know what, I can make a deep run here. And he's back at the Tigers. So talk to me about that. Obviously, as a player, do you think Storm should be? Did he do enough that Storm should be trying to chase him? I know he said he's going to honour his contract at the Tigers, but should Storm be chasing his contract next year?
Yeah, I think Storm should pick him up, especially if you lose Xavier Coates or George Jennings early on, like they did this season. They need sort of some depth in there. Nick Meaney, I don't think he's NRL first grade quality just yet. It's been proven, in the few weeks that he has been playing, it's not been good. So maybe they need to pick him up, and I heavily suggest it.
100%. Now, obviously, Baxter, before I do wrap up this episode, is there any talking points or anything you want to bring up from this game?
Nah, just go Ricky.
Go Ricky. I think that's only going to survive for one more week if he wins, because then he will have a clash with your boys for a spot in the NRL final. But I think if you're a neutral fan, if you're not playing them, you are on the Raiders side as they do head to CommBank Stadium. But Baxter, thank you once again for joining me, and keep that smile on your face, because we'll be back very soon to talk about the Cowboys' 2-point win against the Sharks.
See you then.